What's your creepiest glitch in the Matrix or unexplainable thing that's ever happened to you? I had just pulled into the parking lot of where I worked and was walking towards the building. It was like 3 in the afternoon, broad daylight. All of a sudden, I heard an ambulance's siren start sounding. Naturally, I looked down the road to try and see the ambulance. I see it approaching and decided to watch it for a bit. It was quickly getting closer, and it was about to pass right by me. However, there was a large SUV waiting to turn out of the parking lot and onto the road, blocking a few meters of the road from my view. The ambulance passed behind the SUV, probably about 50 feet away from me at most, and I vividly remember the siren becoming completely silent in that instant. The ambulance had vanished entirely as it passed behind that SUV. I was so confused. The road did not have many cars on it at the time, and it was broad daylight. I did a triple take and made sure that I didn't just miss it. I had a clear view of the road going both directions, and there was no more ambulance to be seen. No more siren either. I walked up and down the road, trying to find it for a solid minute, but nope, it was gone. I was well rested, not on dogs, and I didn't have a history of hallucinations. It seems dismissible, but I was completely aware of what happened, and I can't explain it to this day. Finally, one I can answer. This happened years ago, so my memory is pretty foggy, but I remember the most important details, so here is a paraphrased version of what happened. This was about 4-5 years ago. Every morning I get ready and hop on the bus to school. The bus arrives at 7:45 every day. Even though my house is one house down from the stop, I go 15 minutes early because sometimes the bus does come early late. One day, I arrive at the stop at the usual time and wait for the bus. Please note that I was the only person at the stop, or so I thought. 7:45, no bus. 7:50, no bus. Nearly 8 AM, no bus. So I left and had my mom take me to school and thought nothing of it, until I asked my neighbor. I texted her asking if the bus came, saying, me, hey, I came down to the bus stop 7:30 but the bus never came. Did you catch the bus? My neighbor, yes, but that's impossible. I came down at 7:40. That was common for them. You weren't there. The bus did come. Cue my confusion. Me, that's weird. I swear I came down at 7:30, and I swear, the bus didn't come. My neighbor, wow, that's weird. I never figured out how that could even be remotely possible. Maybe I stepped into some sort of alternate reality or something. I had a very important document that I only ever kept in one place. I kept it in the top drawer of a small filing cabinet. I never moved it and would always see it in that drawer whenever I opened it for whatever reason. The day came that I needed it now and I didn't sweat it because I knew exactly where it was. Well, I'd be damned if it wasn't there. Cue panic attack. I tore that filing cabinet up. I removed everything and spread it out. Flipped papers over, dug through envelopes, shook everything out, shined a flashlight all through the emptied cabinet in case it was somehow stuck to the sides. I mean, it was not there. I can assure you no one took it or was messing with me. I was so frustrated. I even looked through other parts of my house, but I knew it wouldn't be in any of those places and it wasn't. I was intermittently going back to that dumb filing cabinet. No luck. Super irritated. I searched the rest of the house again and, on my way back downstairs where my filing cabinet was, I called out in frustration. Okay, bring it back. I don't know who I thought I was talking to because I was alone, but you guessed it. I found it in the top drawer of my filing cabinet where it should have been in the first place. I was relieved and totally freaked out. I have a good one. I was about 12 years old and woke up in the middle of the night needing to take a leak. I walked across the hall to the little bathroom, hit the lights, and was about to reach for the toilet when I glanced up and saw a face in the mirror. It was not my face. It was as if someone was on the other side, standing to the right, with their face right next to the glass, staring at me. I only saw it for the briefest moment, but it is seared into my brain. I screamed and ran out of there to find my dad. Of course, my dad investigated, then calmed me down, or tried to. Eventually we had a prayer session, because I was so freaked out. Eventually I must have gone back to sleep. Fast forward to my 30s. I'd forgotten all about the event. One night while visiting, my dad quietly brings it up. Remember that one time you saw a face in the mirror? It suddenly came back to me in a rush of memory, sending a chill down my spine. Yay, I remember. Well, he said, I sometimes think about that night. He looked down at the floor with a serious expression. I saw it too. He went on to describe exactly what I'd seen. We have no idea what that was. Apparently when he investigated, he saw it and had a freak out of his own. Apparently the prayer session was as much for his own nerves as mine. I respect him for keeping that tidbit from me till my 30s, but I kinda wish he'd never told me. Taking the trash out at night. Super remote area, so I know for a fact we're the only ones around here. Getting close to the road and I hear very clearly help me from a female voice. Even knowing there's such a slim chance of there being another living person around, I still feel like I should look around and check it out in case I wasn't just hearing things and someone actually needs help. Take about 2 steps in the direction I thought I heard it. Hear a giggle in the same exact voice. Turn around and walk promptly back up the driveway because FH, anyone who actually needed help wouldn't be laughing. I don't think. I've told this story before and could go into a ton of detail, but here's a short version. I am 100% sure I vividly remember a dog that apparently doesn't exist. When I was 16 we lived on the other side of the province and my uncle had this little Jack Russell named Crew. Crew went missing for several months and then turned up at a humane society over an hour away and we were all shocked this little dog has made it so far. Anyway, that was almost 20 years ago and the other day I was talking to my parents and was like, whenever I hear about Jack Russells I think about Crew and that stunt he pulled, and they had no idea what I was talking about. Insisted my uncle had never had such a dog. I must have dreamed it, etc. Honestly, anyone else who would have remembered this dog has been dead for a long time and I don't even have any pictures of my uncle. I have absolutely no way to prove this dog existed, but I'm sure that he did. I was working on my motorcycle in a dirt lot where I had crashed it trying to do a sick drift, breaking off the clutch lever and the gear shifter. I had brought a wrench set with me and I was using one of them to take off a bolt when I put it down on the ground to finish unscrewing the bolt with my hand. 2 minutes later I went to pick it back up and it was gone. I ran all around this dirt lot looking for it to no avail. Luckily I had a spare in the car. Fixed the bike and drove back to my apartment to shower as I was filthy. I walked in my room and sitting on my desk was the wrench. I was dumbfounded. So, this might be hard to explain. I was probably 12 and lived in a big log cabin. One day while my parents were at work, I got in a fight with my brother, 18, who had some anger issues. He chased me through the house and I ran out one door, around our porch and in through another door. I was going to lock it behind me but didn't have time because he was too close behind me. So, I slammed the door behind me and kept running. When I glanced back to see if he had made it through the door yet, he was banging on the window of said door and yelling for me to unlock it. The door was locked and there was no he had locked it, because the door could only be locked from the outside with a key, of course, and our parents never gave us keys. There was also no way the door could have accidentally locked when I slammed it behind me, because it needed to be fully turned to lock, and usually required some finagling at the end to make it actually lock. I stood there dumbfounded for a few seconds and then ran to a bathroom and locked myself in there. Definitely feel that saved me that day. It's an odd thing where people close to me talk about things I was previously thinking of before I see them. Holy same. Especially lately I've noticed, I'll be thinking about something for a little while and then right before I'm about to mention it, my boyfriend will say something almost exact to what I had been thinking about. It's to the point where I'm starting to look at him suspiciously because how the frick can you just coincidentally say every single thing I'm thinking about or about to say this many times, lol. For obvious reasons I always keep a reverse Uno card in my pocket, a blue reverse Uno card which I once found on my nightstand. Anyways, I had accidentally washed it with my pants. It was destroyed. The next day after waking up, guess what I found on my nightstand? A blue Uno reverse card. You'd better prepare to be washed at some point. You wash the reverse card. Now the reverse card will wash you. A total of 3 times in my life I have had memories of seeing movie trailers that hadn't been made yet. It's not even a feeling of deja vu. It's a clear vivid memory of seeing the movie before. Me and my buddy Ryan were big dubstep fans at the beginning of high school. One day between classes we both turned the corner to run into each other while singing the exact same song at the exact same point in the song, Stranger by Skrillex. We are still amazed at how weird of a coincidence it is when we bring it up. Nothing weird here, just you living in High School Musical. I don't personally remember this, but I would see my dead grandfather all the time when I was a kid. From the ages of 7-9 there was probably 10 different incidents. My dad was an absolutely pansy when it came to ghosts, which I don't really believe in, and wanted to take me to the doctor. My dad had one of those bathrooms with a separate toilet room and no one that lived in the house closed the bathroom door unless they were bathing. I was playing RuneScape and my dad asked why the bathroom door was closed, and I said it's because grandpa's in there. That's the only one I actually remember. There was maybe 2 other bathroom incidents and some incidents when I would sit on the floor and watch TV with my dad and he would tell me to go sit in what was once my grandfather's chair and said I couldn't because grandpa was sleeping. I don't know how creepy these are tbh, but they freaked out my family for sure. 2 things. Each was witnessed by at least one other person and both were while driving. Once at a stop sign in a neighborhood, all of these little sparkles started swirling around in midair roughly 3-4 feet off the ground out of nowhere. The group of them were roughly 2 foot wide by 3-4 feet tall. It lasted 3-5 seconds and then they were gone. No one was around and when I asked my passenger if he saw it too he breathed a sigh of relief and said yes. We spoke about it a little more but there is no reasonable explanation. The second happened when myself and 3 friends were driving down an empty country road. Very straight stretch. A man on a bike appeared. Someone said to watch out for him, so not to hit him, and then he disappeared. Our minds were blown to say the least. Just poof and he's gone. I usually break this out when someone asks for a ghost story, but I don't believe in ghosts, so we'll say it fits this category. I have always loved exploring abandoned buildings in the American West, mostly ghost towns, abandoned mines and such, but old ranch houses and other building can be interesting too. In 2005, I was in central Nevada, heading for a week-long exploring trip. I passed an old house on a large, former ranch property that I know had been inhabited just a few years earlier, but now appeared to be abandoned. No cars on the property, about half of the windows boarded up, etc. The front door was open, so after shouting out for any inhabitants with no response, I walked into the house. It had seen other visitors before me. A few windows were broken from the inside, and many of the few belongings left behind had been rummaged through and strewn about. I walked upstairs and began walking from bedroom to bedroom. Pack rats had begun their takeover, and their droppings littered the floor. I walked into what was once decorated as a little girl's room. There was a cheap brass bed frame, and the mattress had been slid partially off the frame and onto the floor. Some clothes and toys sitting around would lead me to believe the girl was quite young. I peeked into the small closet, which was bare with the exception of a few wire hangers left on the rod. When I turned to leave the closet, there was a girl, around 5-6 years old, sitting on the bed, which had somehow had the mattress returned to its normal position. She said, "Hi, mister, what are you doing in my room?" I panicked, and immediately realized that the house wasn't abandoned. It was just that the family living there was living in extreme poverty. I began apologizing, and explained that I had yelled hello, and nobody answered, so I thought the house was abandoned. "It's okay, mister, mommy isn't home. I haven't seen her in a long time. Maybe you could help me find her?" She stood up, walked toward the open window and sat on the ledge, looking out on a vast empty field of sagebrush. I asked her to come downstairs with me and we would go find her mother. She started to stand up from the window, but turned around suddenly and said, "Oh no, he's coming. I have to go, mister, he's coming. You should probably go too." She then kicked her legs over the windowsill and jumped. I raced to the window and looked to the ground, expecting to see an injured little girl, but there was nothing there. I raced back downstairs and out of the house. I looked around as I walked back to my car, but saw nobody. She wasn't what I think of when I think of a ghost. There was no transparency, no foggy haze around her or anything like you would expect from a movie ghost. I still don't know what the hell I saw. I pulled into Austin, NV later that evening and met up with the group I was planning on exploring with. We went for drinks that night at a local bar. and after a few drinks they convinced me to tell my story to the bartender. He listened, and then asked me to confirm the location of the property. When I described the location and condition of the house, he explained, "Oh yeah, that's the old ranch. Sounds like you had a visit from Nellie. She likes to chat with people that stop by. She's harmless." He then explained that the original owner disappeared in the late 1960s after leaving a note saying the family was moving to Alaska so he could try his luck at gold mining in the Yukon. He was later located in Oregon and largely suspected of killing his wife and daughter. However, no bodies were ever found. His version of the story was that the wife and daughter did not want to leave Nevada and left him somewhere along the way. I absolutely loathe telling this story because I don't believe in ghosts or the paranormal, and I feel like I'm trying to tell a spooky story to a group of children. I went back to that house 2 more times before it was burned down a few years back. I never saw or heard anything unusual since my first visit.